It depends on this. It depends on the kids. I mean, well, the people involved. I think sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. I think, as in most dating situations, it depends on the individuals that are in the dating relationship.
Most people look at it like it's a taboo thing, but if two people are in love with each other, I don't see nothing wrong with it. If they're taking care of each other, and whether it be each other's soulmate, there should be no problem.
I don't have any problems with it. I see it more and more, and I think it's more and more accepted.
My personal opinion is that there's nothing wrong with it. That if two people are compatible and they find the person that they're meant to be with, that they should go for it.
The only problem I have with interracial dating is when they're closed-minded about dating. If it's a person that says, I only date white women, I only date, those are closed-minded people. I don't like those type of people. But if they find people that they fall in love with not because of their skin color, have no problem with that. Because love has no color.
You know what, it's funny that you would have that's even something that would be questioned today, because interracial dating, I mean, people are people. And the fact that colors even are
an issue in 2006, it's
it
ridiculous.
Blows our mind.
I think this is a live and let live type of country, and I have absolutely no problem whatsoever.
I found out that I really do believe that you should date whoever you want. And I think it's up to those individuals. If somewhere down the line you find out that there's some cultural differences, that's stuff that you have to deal with all your life, but you still have that personal choice, and everybody should be able to make it.
My preference is for black man, black woman, white man, white woman.
In 2000, Alabama held a statewide referendum to remove its ban against interracial marriages. It was the last state in America to hold such a law in its books, 33 years after the Supreme Court rendered those laws powerless by ruling them unconstitutional. The act of striking the law was largely symbolic, a state removing a shameful relic from its history of segregation. The election to remove the law was successful, but amazingly, 40% of the voters, nearly half, voted against removing the ban. Incidents like this one make it clear that interracial relationships are the last racial taboo in America. Love is not blind in America when it comes to interracial relationships, and all of the possible combinations, black and white couples continue to be the most eye-catching and the most controversial. At first glance, it would seem that America has made some progress. The rate of interracial marriages has skyrocketed, almost doubling each decade since 1970, according to the U.S. Census data. The increasing portrayal of black and white couples in entertainment and in the media reflects the growing trend. But although some polls show increasing tolerance or even approval, America's legacy of slavery continues to have a lasting effect on how its citizens view black and white couples. Despite our modern times, many people view people of color in a negative light. But perhaps what makes black and white couples so controversial is the perception of their relationships as an unspoken statement that partners of their own race somehow aren't suitable. Still, others look at black and white couples through a lens of preconceived ideas and outdated prejudice. The white man who has succumbed to the animal sensuality of the black woman. The black woman who has captured the ultimate gold digger's prize in a white man. The white woman who quenches her desire for excitement in the ultimate bad boy in a black man. The black man who has found a more submissive and dutiful companion in a white woman. Interracial relationships reveal hidden prejudice. After all, these days, many people readily admit to having friends or close associates of a different race, but mention their sons, daughters, brothers, or sisters dating someone of that race, and their views often change. In the next 2 hours, we're going to take you across the country, exploring the views and opinions of couples, individuals, and focus groups of American citizens to show you interracial dating in America uncovered.
I kind of feel that here in the South it's a little bit shocking in a way, because we don't really see it as much as other people do in other cities or states. So
no, that's true. We really never see it. And like I said, in the last 2 months, I've seen two. One at a birthday party, one at a farmer's market, and both of them were very different than what I see on TV. When you see interracial couples in real life, they're not, both of them aren't totally into rap, and they're not wearing, sweatsuits. It was just very different to see real life couples, and they were very earthy and both had babies. And that's one thing I have to say, though, is that when you have a interracial baby, they are beautiful.
Here in Texas, seeing it, I think, really good for you, because not only is it just good that you found love, but in a way you're kind of breaking, it's even harder, I think, socially for interracial couples here in the South. And so not only have they found love, but they're kind of knocking down some stereotypes along the way, and that's always good.
But I think you would still have to preface it, like if one of our friends was dating outside of their race, you would have to be like, I went on a date with this guy. Oh, by the way, he's, black, he's African American. He's, you would have to almost kind of give us a warning. It would be a big deal. It'd be like, wow. I don't think I'd care, but if they came to dinner and all of a sudden, I'd be like, why didn't you tell me?
But would it be similar to somebody saying, hey, I'm a lesbian, or I'm gay?
It would be different, because, how
we live in a bubble.
Yeah, we do. And, we don't have a lot of different races living in our neighborhoods, and we can be friends with different races, but when you're talking about your friend becoming intimate with one, I would think that you don't easily say, hey, I am dating this girl, oh, I'm beside, she's Chinese, or she's African American, whatever. But I think that it's a hard thing to segue into. But if I knew one of our friends that was, I would be like, tell them, or tell our friends before they came, just so people weren't shocked.
I don't mind it when I see a black girl with a white guy. I'm like, hell yeah, like get that shit, But when I see a black guy with a white girl, like automatically, like what I feel is just like, I don't know, like I'm not racist, because I hang out with a lot of black people, I have black friends. But there's something when you see a black guy that you don't know only if she's hot though. If she's not hot, it's just like whatever. But if you see a black guy with a hot white girl, it almost feels like, damn, like you're stealing our women, But, it is what it is, I guess.
Well, it just depends on the couple. If they're an upstanding couple, then I don't have a problem with it. If I see some white girl that's good looking or what have you and carries herself well with a black man that looks like a gangbanger, then I have a problem with it. I don't understand the attraction. But I have several friends that are interracial couples. They're very upstanding. They dress nice. They look good together, and I don't have a problem with that. But I mean, as far as when you see something that's more for show, like a hood ornament, that's when I have a big problem with it.
Well, I'd have to tell you at first I'd be probably a little taken back, just because of where I'm from originally. You don't see a whole lot of that. So at a young age, it wasn't very common. I don't think there's anything technically wrong with it. I haven't been around a lot of it as far as my friends and family. So I guess my first initial reaction would be taken back.
When a white guy sees a white girl with a black man, the guy automatically thinks that girl is being torn up by that big black dick. She's not going to go back to that white guy. So you think automatically that girl's lost. She's lost.
I feel like it has a lot to do with your upbringing, to tell you the truth. You know, I mean, I guess you could go with that whole motto, you know, and I could see how some people would think that. But at the same time, it's like, you know, I don't know, maybe you're brought up that way, and that's why it's more acceptable. Very open to other races and so forth, which I think is a good thing, obviously. But there's a lot of people that, like for instance, if I was to look if there was a girl in our circle of friends that was dating a black guy, it would take us at shock at first, because everyone's kind of brought up the same, where that's not acceptable, you know. And
Did they actually tell you that? It's not acceptable?
Well, honestly,
I'm not saying that it's not acceptable. I'm just saying that I'm just saying that at first, a lot of our friends, a lot of the friends that I hang out with, were brought up a lot like I was, where it's okay. Like right now, it's okay. You want to be okay with it, but deep down, I feel like, you know, like I was brought up where it wasn't okay. For you, it's okay for your friend, but it's not okay for you.
Right, but I would say, yeah, absolutely. Depending on their upbringing, whether they actually follow through with the action and you know, their circle of influence. Like if they're raised like, you know, just straight up, you date white people, you marry white people, and that's what it is. And if you bring, you know, honey, if you bring a black guy home, like I'm cutting you off. Like if that's what they grow up with, they probably won't follow through with the action. But I think everybody has something inside them that's curious. I think all of your friends, those girls you say would never date a white guy, I believe.
Well, no, I'm not saying they would never date a black guy. I'm just saying because of upbringing, you would look at it differently.
Absolutely, but also at the same time, I think a lot of those girls are probably curious about it. They probably, if they were in a different circle of friends, and they wouldn't receive the type of banishment or you know, the negative responses or the looks that you get from your friends if they were with a black guy, I think they would, because everybody has a sense of curiosity and they want to experiment. And just like I'm a guy, like I've dated girls from all nationalities, and yeah, like I want to know what a black girl's like in bed. I want to know what a white girl's like in bed.
That's you, though.
That's me, right? But even if I was raised that that's not okay, that doesn't change the fact that I might be curious.
True. Throughout the South, I believe that you see black men with white women. And I think it might be for the black guy, I don't know this, but it could be like a trophy type of thing. You know, why aren't they dating black women? But these white females are available, so, you know, and these white females make themselves available to these black men, whether it be rebellion or pop culture.
Yeah, I think some guys will date any white girl, some black guys will date any white girl just because they're white, because from the, like, where they come up with, it's almost like, I got me a white girl. You know, like, even if they're like gross, like you're like, that's disgusting, but to them it's like, I banged a white chick. Like, I don't know, like, I think that's honestly, in some cases, I think that's what it is.
When I see an interracial couple, a black man with a white woman, I feel ashamed, because black men, there are good black men out there. I'm telling you, the misconception comes when we as a people, we as African American women are so confident in ourselves that we don't understand humility. We don't understand that men are designed to be leaders, that there is productive leadership. And while we are a very dominating force, very, very intelligent, powerful force of creature on this earth, at the same time, we have to succumb and compliment our men. That is something that, by stereotype, white women do. So when I see a black man with a white woman, I feel like no, he's not fulfilled, because there's always that component that's lacking, which is me, which is that black woman. But I just feel like if he had the right black woman standing next to him, he would show her more affection than he's ever shown a woman. Because he has a black queen that not only can appreciate him, but that he in turn can appreciate. He won't have to go to, you know, bleach. He could use regular Tide. It's just as good.
The first thing that comes to my head is cop out. That's pretty much what comes to my head, because I mean, and when I see them, don't get me wrong, they may be an adorable couple. I'm not tripping. I have my man, so I'm not worried about him. But when I see him, I'm thinking cop out. Why? Because it takes a real man to hold down a black family household. That's just what it takes. I mean, when you look at women and you look at a history of women and our men, you know, a lot of this stuff comes from the men not being in the household, and nobody taught them how to be men and all this stuff. But what happened with that was black women were left on their own. So you got a black woman who is a fighter left on her own, she gonna fight. So when you come to her, you want her to submit to you, and that's fine. Black women are willing to submit, but you got to give me something to submit to. You know, and so when I see him with a white woman, she's more than willing, from, I guess you could say, the stereotypes or what I see, you know, to submit to him, with him not bringing a lot of it to the table. And I think black women, on the other hand, have a harder time with that, because we have a lot of more pressures, if you will. So, I mean, you have to, and I tell a man when I start dating him, when you have to come in and play your role. If you want me to submit, you have to play your role. Other than that, I'm going to completely take your role, my role, and take it over and run, because we're going to make it. And that type of mentality, that type of independence poses problems for our black men. They don't want to work that hard. We're making them work too hard. That's a problem.
Well, I don't think the black man should be on a quest to, you know, preserve his race. I was talking to my brother, and I asked him the question. I was like, would you date outside, you know, your race? And he was like, hell yeah. I'm not on a quest to preserve my race. I'm on a quest to do what makes me feel happy. And if a white woman makes me feel happy, you're damn right I'm going to date a white woman. If I find a black woman better, I am going to date a black woman. So I don't think they really owe, if a black man is dating a white woman, he does not owe any black woman the right of his heart to date her. That's not what he wants. And that's why most people end up in ugly relationships, because a black man will go and date a black woman because the black woman wants him to be with her instead of someone else, and that's not what he wants. So he's not going to give her the best of attention she wants. He's not going to give her his 100% heart. He's not going to be faithful to her, most definitely, if that's not what he wants. He's going to go out and get what he wants. So I mean, when I see a black man and a white woman, the first thing that honestly comes to my heart is, ooh, they're gonna make a beautiful baby with curly hair and nice eyes and great skin complexion. That's what I feel. I mean they make pretty babies.
When I see a black woman dating a white man, or a white man dating a black woman, I think that it's love. Because who are we to predetermine who we fall in love with?
Myself, when I see a black man dating a white woman, mixed views. Sometimes I kind of feel like maybe kind of sold himself out. But at the same time, I mean, as the gentleman said earlier, you know, with love, that's a different issue. But that same love should be shared with your fellow sister.
When I say interracial couple, I say they love each other enough to deal with all the bullshit that goes along with being an interracial couple. Because everybody knows that if you're going to be an interracial couple, you got to deal with stuff from both the black side and the white side, or the Asian side, or the green side, or the red side, whichever side. So it's got to be a situation where people really care about each other because of society.
When I see
a black woman and a white man in any area, anywhere in the mall, or when I'm sitting in a restaurant trying to eat and they walk in together, especially if she's getting the attention that I feel she deserves just being a black woman, I get happy, I get elated, because I feel like that woman has realized that she has standards. She realized that she did not have to be trapped inside of a stigmatism or a stereotype, and that she can step outside and not be afraid of what everybody else is thinking and just do what makes her feel good. So I'm happy for any woman that dates outside her race or even considers it.
When I see a black woman with a white man, I think, what kind of vibrator did she use? And the bigger issue for me is, how is she fulfilled? And when you have March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, what does she do when February rolls around? And is she the only teacher in the household when she has her child? Does he just sit there and attempt to learn about our history because he absolutely cannot relate to it? He can only sympathize for our people, maybe shed a tear, maybe some liquid formulate in the crevice of his eye, because he cannot empathize with the woman that he chooses to walk with. I just wonder what kind of fulfillment she gets. I wonder what led her astray. What makes her feel like she can be completed by someone that can't even completely understand her? How can she? Your mother is a prime example of something like the epitome of a maternal, caring caregiver. She is the divine entity that everyone in some regards seeks after, specifically a man. So how does she feel adequate? It bothers me. I just look at it and I attempt to understand her mentality, because I simply don't. I simply cannot see myself standing next to a man that I could overpower, that I know that I'm more dominant than. I mean, I'm not done yet. This is my soliloquy. Holla. I can literally dominate. I don't care how smart he is, his intelligent quotient. We all got school, congratulations. But when it comes to a black man that I know makes me want to stand up and be his black queen, that I know he can take me anywhere and I represent him well and he represents me well, I'm almost speechless, and that's rare. But I am taken aback by the entire scenario, just the visual to even fathom something that insane.
Well, see, I know for me, when I see a black woman with a white man, I know some of the typical stereotypes are going to be, well, she wants him for his money. He must have a lot of money. I mean, because that probably normally be the reason why I'm dating him. So I could see why you would say that stereotype. But I actually look at it on the flip side. Wow, look at that trophy he has.
Right.
That's actually how I look at it. Let me explain why.
Yes.
Sisters have the best bodies, the best features of any race.
The ones white women pay for.
And let me go a little bit further to tell you how I know that's true. If you go to Hollywood, any white person or any other race, if they do anything black, they are famous. Beyonce been having a big booty since she got in the game at 16. J-Lo come in with a butt and she gets recognized for a butt. Black women been having butts our whole life. We're born with it. But she gets famous and insurance on her ass. That trips me out. So anything of a black woman, a white man to me feels like he has a trophy, because he does.
When I see a white man and a black woman, I think about self-esteem. I think that a black woman might be a bit controlling towards the white man. Because I don't think black women treat people a lot of the time very nicely.
I see a black woman with a white man. My assumption is that she's highly educated, very well adjusted, and probably well traveled. This is understand, I'm speaking of assumptions, and that she's you know, obviously at a level where she can manage, you know, in the sense that she's quite secure of herself. And that's my assumption immediately, right away. I'm not going to assume anything other than she must be highly educated, must have really, you know, her own money, must be in some professional field of some sort. I never look at it like, oh, she's just, you know, somebody that's maybe an artist or something of that nature. I'm very honest, ladies, that's my assumption.
A black woman with a white man. Honestly, I get a little bit, I'm a bit jealous because the first question is why, you know. For one, you know, the brothers, I mean, we, you know, and good black men, I mean, sure enough, we are hard to find. And when we lose sisters to, you know, opposite race, I mean, that makes it that much harder for us, you know, and, you know, I mean, it's just, we need sisters to stand behind us also, though, I mean, you know, they go through a lot in having to deal with some of the things that we put out to them or whatnot, but I mean, we still need them because the good black men out there, and we need them, you know, to stand by us even more so in this state.
When, you know, when I see a black woman with a white man, you know, the first thing I think about is, you know, obviously she has maybe had some issues with dating black men and has decided to try dating white men, and for whatever reason, you know, whatever floats her boat, whatever creams her Twinkie, I'm happy for her, because if that's what she wants, that's what she can have.
Interracial dating frequently reveals hidden prejudice. People often proudly talk about how they have friends of a different race or detail their interaction with them, sometimes as if they're trying to prove that they really are racially open-minded. But if you ask about someone's son or daughter dating someone of a different race, you will often get a response that speaks more honestly of their attitudes and prejudice.
That would be, in my opinion, just from, yeah, that'd be the toughest sell that girl ever had to sell, in my opinion. Yeah. And the reason for that would be just because growing up, I knew that was never an option. And I would just, and not that you know, for other people that's great, but my daughter, no. Just because I feel like there's so many hardships you're gonna have to go through in your life anyways. Why put yourself through more hardships and your kids through hardships and everything with the whole race issue? Because I don't know, that's just my opinion.
And I'm not interested in having her bring anybody home that is not going to further strengthen our bloodline. That's going to be an issue, and I am in full support of everybody in my household having gun licenses. Therefore, she is not going to be bringing someone to my house that is a white man.
If my child were to date outside their race, I think I'd have concerns about their identity or how they felt about their identity, or if they would have issues with that.
My daughter was to date a black man. I would hope that I would be supportive and understanding, and I believe that as long as he treated her very well and was kind to her and good to her, I believe that I would be okay with it. And I would just hope that I would have the knowledge to help support her in any experiences that she might have with him, since I'm really not aware of being in that situation.
How I would feel if my child came home and said that they brought home a member of another race. I would counsel my child. I would tell my child basically what he or her had to would expect from dating an interracial, from being an interracial couple, and I wouldn't have any problem with it at all. If my child loved this individual, then I think it'd be great.
For myself, I would definitely have to seek some counseling maybe, but really, I love my child, so I have to accept that which my child loves. I don't have to agree with it, as my brother said, that, you know, to have to counsel my child on I guess the do's and don'ts and the ways of the world, what to expect. But just for the most part, I would be against it.
You know, quite frankly, my kids go to Catholic school, and it's no telling who they'll date, what they'll date. You know, at the end of the day, you know, they go to school with a little bit of everybody. So I fully expect it, and we'll just have to deal with it when we cross that bridge.
If my child brought home someone who was not black, you know, I would try very hard to listen to why he's with this person. And, you know, I hate that he would have to qualify it, but for me personally, he probably would have to tell me why he chose someone who was not black, because I do realize the worth of a black woman, and I do want our black men to date black women or to at least consider it. But you know, if that white woman is giving, if Buffy can give my son the happiness that he is worthy of and make him feel like a king, then go Buffy, go. You know, I'm all for it, because my baby comes first.
Well, if my daughter brought home a white guy, how would I react? I probably would be ecstatic for her. And let me explain that. One thing God gave us in this life, that gift that he gave us, is choice. And for me to bounce on somebody's choice is incorrect. So I have to step back. That's not my place to judge, okay? So, but since I know that I'm possibly in that position with my daughter being 6 now, that's a high possibility, then what I do is teach her about her race so that it can be extended on to her children and all the other African American children she'll be in contact with. But if he's loving her and he's treating her right, then personally I'm not gonna, that's her, she has a whole different life to live and whole different lessons to learn for me to interrupt. If he's not abusing her or treating her wrong, I can't jump on that. But what is my preference? For her to be with a black guy. But that's not for me to impose on my daughter. It's to teach her properly and let her make her own decisions and be a big girl. So that's why I would step back on my children, even though I don't agree. But I would, if that white man came in the room, I would shake his hand, give him a hug, come and eat. It's all love. It's not that. It's just preference.
When discussing interracial dating among people, the myth of the angry black woman inevitably arises. But is it completely a myth? Recent statistics have shown that as the education of a black man increases, his tendency to marry within his race decreases. Are black men who date interracially trying to elevate their status? Or are they just desperately looking for the love and romance they're missing in their lives? What are the real issues?
A lot of black women have a chip on their shoulder, especially if they see a white woman with a black man. My God.
I think it's all, when it boils down to it, it's just, you know, men and women and the way they interact. I don't think there's that big of a difference between the black woman and the white woman besides the chip on their shoulder. But beyond that, I don't think there's a big difference.
Black women, I believe, are angry because they see this black man treat a white woman that she is being treated. How dare you come to me with no money and with attitude and, you know, mistreating and disrespecting me and not taking care of my household. I who protect you, I who defend you, I who love you, I who bear you. How dare you step outside of our pure blood and treat this white woman better than you would ever treat me.
Okay, with you saying that, just said, I think that black men go to white women not just because they suck dick. I mean, black women suck dick. Not just because they give them money. I give my man money. You know what I'm saying? It's because he can't walk all over me. That's the problem. That's that one statement that causes the problem, because you can walk all over her. See, you're going to have to come in at a certain time because you got to respect our household and our kids who's sleeping. See, it's things like that. It's just rules. It's just respect. It's things that he wasn't taught from his father that I have to be a woman and teach him. And that becomes a problem. And in those type of relationships, from what I see, I don't know. I've never been in a white and black relationship with a man and a woman, so I don't know. But she doesn't have to teach him how to be a man. She accepts the man, little boy, that he already is and allows him into a room and it's no problem. Well, I want you to up your game. I want you to step up and take care of this family. You got some responsibilities. And that's where the problem comes in. He can't walk over me.
Well, see, I'm going to agree with that. But women that say that they're willing to step outside of their race and they have these negative stereotypes about black men is because they've been dealing with black boys. And there's a huge distinction between the two, but I'm not looking for a boy. So any man that has the mentality that, you know, he wants a woman that he can run over, he wants a woman that can do this for him, that basically that he needs to be pumped up to feel like a man, I don't want him anyway. That's not what I deal with. I deal with black men, and men understand who they are. They're no longer in search of what's inside them because they have a grasp on that. They understand who they are, what they're going to do, they have a vision, and they themselves are indicative of everything that's respectable. They are looking for me. They're looking for a package. They're looking for someone to compliment them. If they want something to walk over, I will go to Cantoni and buy them a lovely fabricated rug. I am the supplement to what they're looking for. So I don't deal with men like those aren't men to me.
Well, see, and on the flip side of that, when white women say that they heard, you know, the complaints they get from a black man about black women, well, first of all, you know, white women, you got to understand you just heard a black man's side of the story. That's a problem. And that's why he and I got into it, and that's why he with you. Because you just heard his side of the story. When it sounds like, oh, well, I took you here, but why you didn't take me there? It's probably because I done took you out and paid your bill, so why didn't you go ahead and up your game and do something more for me? I mean, you got to hear the whole story before it sounds like we're angry. Because, you know, a lot of times, and I know for me, I love black men, but of course I run into issues. And some of the issues is that they don't take responsibility on some things. So when they come into you, understand that if they didn't include themselves into the problem, then you got to understand both sides of the story before you start talking about all the stuff that he just said.
No, black man has a big dick, white man has a little dick. Black woman needs vibrator to satisfy herself if she's with a white man. I don't think that's true. Because if you want to talk about this, it's a lot of white guys that have big dicks.
You can get your world.
You could get yeah, you can. And you know one thing. Let me tell you another thing. It's a lot of white men. You know how they say the white women do the unbelievable things to the black man, the whole white man going there. It's white men that can do some miraculous things to a black woman. You better explore, because you're missing out, baby. You are missing out.
You're probably right.
I have dated
everything, and 1 out of 10 ain't bad. Until we as African American women step up to the plate and realize there are other white women and other races that are trying to capture this black king that we want and that fulfills us and that was designated for us. We have to, it's not even a competition, it's incomparable, but we just have to change our mentalities. There's a mentality shift. We have to realize that we have this commodity. There are several other people that are going to attempt to snatch this commodity, so what will we do to appreciate it? And it is a challenge, it is a command of authority for all black women to wake up and realize that, hey, if a man wants a blowjob, girl, you better put some grease on your knees and give him one. I mean, we complain about black men being unfaithful and about how they go to a white woman, but look how they're catered to. Beyonce wrote a song about it, Let Me Cater to You, period. When you cater to a black man, you blow his mind, blow it. And I'm talking about keyword blow. But we just have to be distinctive and understanding we're already unique. We're unique and fabulous. We could put on a dress, it's gonna drape every curve that we have. White women pay for what God has given us naturally. So since we have the physical, aesthetic appearance of what the black man desires, then all we have to do is step away from that and let him see the queen that he really is with. Tie that do-rag up, fix that dinner, give him that blowjob. Try some KY, let him explore some other hoes. Hey, I'm just saying, we gotta be real with it and understand that in complimenting our men, we have to be a compliment. Thank you. You're welcome.
Like the frontiersmen who crossed America's West long ago, many people who date interracially in America are engaged in a pursuit of happiness, trying to find a love that matches the desire of their hearts. Also, like the frontiersmen from long ago, many of these couples fighting to break America's last color line are uncertain about the future. In our travels throughout the U.S., we found that most American citizens still have mixed emotions as it pertains to interracial dating.
I would be very accepting of whoever. That's, you know, and I would always be loving and caring. If you dated someone, you're a close friend of mine, love it. To me, I'm a people pleaser, so I just would not be able to, I don't know if I would be personally accepting with that change. Like, I could not do that. I would be accepting of it for everybody else, but I personally could not fall into that change to be within it.
I think and I hope that it might not be our kids, but I think by the time our kids have kids, this just won't even be an issue. This just won't even be something that we're talking about anymore. Because if you think about, you know, when our grandparents were our age, we wouldn't even be having this. This would be so scandalous for us to even be discussing this, for us to even be talking about it in public or on camera or with friends or with anyone. I mean, this was a shameful, we don't even discuss that.
I think the future holds a better circumstances for interracial couples and people who choose to get married, interracial marriages. I do believe that people's minds over time are changing for the better. And I do believe that one day really soon, we won't have any problem at all with interracial marriages.
To me, the future of interracial relationships is me. I see America becoming my color. I see America becoming a more tan, light, mocha color because of folks of all different races dating, marrying, procreating. You gotta stop and you think about Hispanics and Asians and African Americans, Caucasians and African Americans, Caucasians and Hispanics. At some point in time, the color line will start to blur, and it'll be a really great country.
I think with being in such a lackadaisical, nonchalant society, it is our responsibility to indefinitely educate our children, specifically black races or races of minority, period, so that they understand the complexities of what they are endeavoring to do. If you, an individual of minority status, chooses to link yourself with a person that is not, you just must understand that there is potential for ridicule, that is potential for ostracization, that definitely there will be perhaps some difficulties in the relationship. So the barriers are being broken down, yes, but at the same time there are more brick walls that are being built up because we feel like, are you getting lost in this relationship? Are you still understanding who you are, where you came from, your struggle, what you've been through? Can you still appreciate who you are and at the same time be a part of that relationship? So, you know, some barriers should be broken down because you don't want to be unreasonable, but at the same time, other ones should definitely be built. We need to get some bricks and cement and build a wall, and it needs to be a wall of knowledge, and we all need to make sure that we stand there and acknowledge it.
A lot of the attention focused on interracial couples is simple curiosity. Even in today's more permissive society, people who date interracially are viewed as different. What sort of person dates interracially? What makes them tick? Why do they do it? What is it like?
I was standing in line at the bank, and I saw her walking into the elevator with a suitcase, and I thought she was good looking, so I said, well, I'm standing in line for 20 minutes and I'm almost up at the counter, but I'll give up my space. And I ran over into the elevator, and I jumped into the elevator, and I started a conversation with her, and she happened to be going to the floor right below me, and we just started chatting. And then I got out of the elevator on the floor above her, and I said to the secretary that was there, which was my floor, I said, just by chance, would you happen to know who the woman downstairs is? And she said, actually, I would. It's my cousin. And I said, really? Well, here's my card. Have her give me a call. And she gave me a call, and we started dating after that.
Well, I gave him a call, and I liked his voice. He was very commanding. And I said, wow, I like this guy. And we went out on a date, had a great time. Tell him what I did.
She threw tantrums, and we went out on We went on 5 dates, and I didn't get a kiss after all 5. I didn't get anything.
We met actually downstairs. There's a little restaurant bar below my apartment, and a girlfriend of mine and I went down for a drink after work, and there was some basketball game on or something.
It was March Madness.
Okay.
College.
So basketball game on. And he and a couple of his friends came in, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. I would totally talk to him. And so my girlfriend thought that his friend was cute. So throughout the night, I kind of like walked by him a couple of times and bumped into him, and he did not pay me any attention because he was watching sports. And so then my friend was talking to his friend and found out that he was actually engaged, so that didn't go over so well. But she's
my
like,
friend was engaged,
not you, no, his friend, sorry. And so then we just started talking and kind of just hit it off, I guess.
I think probably the biggest struggle that, at least that I've endured being a black woman with a white male, is just from black people, which I really find very interesting. If I go out somewhere and I'm with him, or if I go out somewhere and I say that my husband is white, I get all of these looks where people are like, you're married to a white guy? And I just feel like that's so small and insignificant. You know, like, ask me if he's a mass murderer. Ask me if he, takes the garbage out. Ask me if he takes care of our home. Like, ask me if he takes care of me. Don't ask me if he's white and then automatically start labeling, how'd you get a white guy? Or I love when my black female friends will say to me, how'd you get a white guy? Why'd you start dating a white guy? Does he have a small pee-pee? Like, what in God's, first of all, he doesn't, but what in God's name does that have to do with anything? You know, like, I don't know, I just find it to be, do people give you a hard time?
Just about my small pee-pee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You don't have a small pee-pee, honey. I don't know, I just think it's funny, like, we'll get looks when we're walking down the street. That's, I think, when I notice it the most. Like, people will do a double take. I did have a close girlfriend of mine say to me, are you going to tell your parents? And I was like, I mean, they'll eventually find out. I'm going to show up at home with them, and my mother didn't have a problem. My father didn't have a problem either. But I think my father's just so oblivious to everything. Did your mother have a problem?
No, my mother loves everybody. She would have loved Jeffrey Dahmer if I brought him over as a friend. So she loves everyone. But no, I haven't run across any problems. I grew up in a predominantly black area, Mount Vernon, New York. 81% black was my high school. Grew up in a black community for the most part. Went to school with black people. Never really had a problem with them. My sister dated some black guys growing up, and so I'm accustomed to being around multicultural individuals. So it didn't really bother me. I never dated a black woman, like I had said, but I wasn't setting out to find a black woman. I didn't look predominantly for a black woman. I was looking for a woman, and she just happened to fit the bill, and I was fortunate. And when I brought her home, my mother was so impressed with how tall and beautiful she was, it really didn't matter what color she was. So
I do think that I think we are living in a time where you either get people who are very accepting or people who are not accepting. And the people who are not accepting, I find, are very verbal about it. And I just always feel like when people express things to me, like, why are you telling me? Why does what you feel have anything to do with me? I don't know. I don't see Jerry as white. I see him as Jerry.
I guess first would just be fighting the stereotypes. I mean, when someone finds out that you're in an interracial relationship, they pigeonhole you to be a certain way, or you have a black boyfriend. The first question is, oh, how many kids does he have, or oh, does he have a job, or
Is there domestic violence involved? Is there just
yeah. Fighting the stereotypes is hard. Issues with family is hard. People just not being accepting. I'm from a very small town, so that poses its own struggles. Gosh, what else? just going places, people look at us differently. I don't know, some give us looks of, disgust. Other people look at us and like smile. I have had guys say that, like, oh, you must be with him for, I know why you're with him, or no, you don't, because when I met him, the first thing I didn't go have sex with him. I mean, that wasn't the first thing, and I'm like, oh, that did it. I'm gonna be with him. I mean, with any relationship, that takes time, and you have to. So I had someone say that to me when we first started dating, and I was like, I really don't know. I can't tell you. I've never been with a black guy before. I don't know what the difference is, or so that's not why. I just think that is so ignorant.
And if you think that someone's in a relationship just for the sex, it's really not a relationship.
Yeah.
It's just, y'all are having sex. I mean,
that only lasts so long.
Yeah. The physical only lasts so long.
Well, what would you say if a black girl came up and was like, well, why the hell are you with her?
Well, no, I've seen the black girls, like when we go to the mall or something, and maybe you're in the dressing room or something, and a black girl can come look at me, and then they'll be checking me out or whatever, and then when you come out, they'll look at me like, why is he with her? Why, and it's the same thing. Why can't she be with me? Why can't we just be two people who connect and have common interests and who genuinely love each other for all the right reasons? Why does it have to be all this negative stuff?
I didn't tell my parents for a long time that Jerry was white. I don't know if it was a conscious thing. I don't know. I just didn't feel like saying, yeah, and he's white. Because that brings about a whole, even though my parents are open-minded, they're great, I just didn't feel like saying, yeah, you know what, he's white. Because then you get that silence and, okay, well, let's, it starts to become uncomfortable. Even though it shouldn't, it should be totally fine. When I did finally tell my mother, she was like, all right, well, let's meet him. Let's get him over here. But, my sister's married to a white guy, too, after being married to a black guy. And she said to me, she goes, get a white guy, they're better.
My parents, actually both my parents are deceased. They passed away, not too long ago. But when they were alive, they knew that I dated, all kinds of different races. While I was growing up, I was in sports and all different kind of activities. And I was a pretty lucky kid. We grew up in good parts of the city and the suburbs and in mixed environments and all that kind of stuff. So they knew I was going to have friends and possibly girlfriends who were other races, and they always said that they're fine with me. Just as long as you're happy, it's okay. Life's too short to think about what other people are thinking and, trying to please other people. It's not their life that you're living. Live your own life, But as Chelsea had a different kind of situation growing up, I guess. So,
where Jade grew up in a more diverse community. I am from a town of 642 people. My graduating class was 60 people. Town of, your typical small town of all white people who are racist not because they know black people that are bad people, but because of ignorance, because they're not exposed to, I don't know if I want to say ignorant about them on TV, but just ignorance, not knowing.
Kind of closed-minded,
and because you're not exposed to that. And I wasn't exposed to it until I went to a large university, and I was exposed to all different races. And so growing up, the only black people I ever saw were on TV, and unfortunately the black male is portrayed in a very negative way in our media. But that's all I knew. I mean, I had a black basketball coach when I was younger, but that was a very isolated thing. So for my parents, it was hard. When I first told my mom I was dating someone, when I moved to Dallas, she was so excited, and I told her that he was friends with my neighbors, and she had met my neighbors, and so, you know, she got excited, and she always wanted me to tell her everything about, you know, what he does, his family, just normal things that you tell your mom when you're in a new relationship. And so for the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, I told her everything she needed to know about our relationship, and that, you know, we were getting more serious, that I was going to his sister's graduation from college. So I met his family, and we were starting to get more serious. We were talking about moving in together. So we were talking, and she was telling me a story about how she went to a wedding the previous weekend, and there was one black man at the reception. And this is really strange for my town because no one's black. So one of the guys that is friends with my mom walks up to the guy, and he says, "So, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm the bride's stepfather." And he's like, "Shut up, man. No, really, what are you doing here? Are you know, cleaning, or, you know, just typical stereotypes?" And no one could believe that he was married to a white woman and the father of the bride, and it was just so hard to take. And so my mom's telling me this story about, can you believe how rude that is? And I said, well, I don't think that, you know, that's really not that strange here. A lot of people in Dallas are in interracial relationships and stuff. And she's like, huh. And I was like, well, you know, my boyfriend's black. And this was after 5 months of dating him, and and she's like, what? No. But he just sounds so white. I said, Mother, what does that mean? Well, he has a great job, and he comes from a good family, and I mean, he treats you so well, he can't be black. I said, well, yeah, he is. He's all of those things, and he happens to be black. And she was really upset at first, and I think surprised, because how could I have kept that important detail from her? And I just said, I told you everything that I thought you needed to know that was important. You know, he's good to me. We have a very strong relationship, and he happens to be black. And so she was very upset, crying, and at first I didn't want to tell Janae that I told her, because I just didn't want I didn't want to hurt his feelings. And it's hard to say, you know, my parents are racist. And they try to say they're not racist, and her comment was, I said, Mom, you cannot, I just can't believe that you're being so racist. And she says, I'm not racist. I watch Oprah. And that's just the small town mentality, and I think it's very sad. And so for a while, she wouldn't tell my dad, and I certainly didn't want to tell my dad, because my dad doesn't like anyone I date white. Period, no matter what. And so just to tell him that was really scary. And I think my mom's the one who told him first. And so she called me and told me that she told him, and my dad and I are very close. We have a very strong relationship, so I wanted him to hear it from me, so I called him, and he didn't want to hear anything I had to say, so he didn't answer his phone, and he, I guess, didn't call me back for like 2 weeks. And then, it was longer. He called me back, and so we kind of argued a little bit about it. And then we didn't speak for probably almost 2 months. So that's hard. Just we're very close. And then he said something to me. We talked. I'm having a really hard time with it, because it's hard for me to sleep at night. I just want things to be right, you know, either way with Janae and with my dad, because they're both very important people in my life. And So I called him to talk about it, and he finally agreed to talk to me, and we're having a conversation, and he's like, I don't understand. I don't believe in intercultural dating. I don't believe in it. I think that it's wrong. I don't see what you have in common with him. And what I'm trying to explain is it's not like he grew up in the hood and came from nothing and now he's, you know, working, and it's just, he grew up the same way I did in suburbia, and we come from similar families. We happen to have different pigment in our skin, and that's it. And he can't understand it, and he says, well, the only, you know, I've been talking to my friends a lot, and the only white girls who date black guys, 90% of them have serious issues with their fathers, that they do it out of rebellion to their dad. And I know that's not you, because we've always had a very strong relationship. So the other 10% do it for attention. So you must be doing this for attention. The attention that you get when you go places, and
we get dirty looks, and we get
yeah,
that's the attention that we want.
It's all for attention. First of all, I wouldn't go through all the things that we've had to go through if this were just for attention and I didn't believe in the strength of our relationship. So my mom came down to visit about a month ago. So after I told her all that, she called me back, and she's like, I'm really sorry. I was just shocked. If you really love him, and you're serious about moving in with him, and it's something that you're really, your heart is into, I want to be a part of it, and I want to meet him. And so that made me really happy. She came down and stayed for the weekend. We, you know, they hit it off. She loved him, of course, which I knew she would. So it went really well. She went back and told my dad, you know, all these great things about him. And my dad told my mom, you know, if you're not with me on this, then you're against me. And so I think that it's had an effect on their relationship too, which is hard for me because I don't want to be the cause of any fights that they have about anything. But I'm not willing to walk away from this because my dad is closed-minded. I think that it's sad. I don't want to have a relationship separate with him than this. I want him to be a part of it. And any girl who says that they don't care what their parents say, or, you know, every girl wants their dad's approval. It's just, that's how it is. And of course I do. And I hope that when he sees how serious we are, and that this is not a phase, because I've heard that too, that this is just a phase, and it's not a phase. I hope that he'll see that and start to accept it. But as of now, you know, we're not allowed to go there for any holidays, or there will not be a wedding. He will not be a part of any wedding, or any children for that matter. So that's hard.
The subject of interracial dating typically falls victim to misconceptions and popular myths presented as fact. But people who date interracially are the best observers of racial differences, and they also know firsthand about the challenges faced when crossing America's color line to find love.
The difference that I find between a black woman and a white woman is, aside from all the hair care products and the Afro Sheen and the Vaseline that she smears on her face every night and the pile of do-rags that we have, other than that...
Black don't crack, and I have to wrap my hair.
Yeah, I feel that she's very strong and independent, but not that is clearly, you know, definitive of a black woman as compared to a white woman. But she is an independent woman, and she's certainly opinionated and has her own way of doing things, regardless if it's right or wrong. But other than that, I mean, there's no difference. I mean, she doesn't sleep any different. She doesn't eat any different. Just a lot. But other than that, I mean, there's no difference between black and white as far as that goes. We don't have any other issues that any other normal couple would have, white or black. We complain about money. We complain about, you know, staying up too late. We complain about who's going to walk the dogs. It's all the same for us.
I can tell you, I've actually noticed a couple different things between white men and black men. No, I have. White men will go out and they'll spend money on you. I typically find like a lot of black guys, they don't want to buy you drinks. They don't want to spend any money. They want to spend your money. They want to live in your
money too.
Yeah, okay.
But you don't.
They want to live in your house and drive your car. And that's, you know, I just find a lot of times with at least the black men that I've dated, and listen, I've dated quite a few.
So you're a black man then, because you want to spend my money, live in my house, and drive my car.
Maybe I am.
Okay.
I just find that with black men, that the differences are always financial. All of the black men that I dated, and there are several.
There are numerous. Numerous.
There are several. Shut up.
Probably on this block alone.
I never dated anybody. Stop it. They always wanted what I had instead of trying to go out and get for themselves. It was always, my parents own real estate, so I was always well taken care of. So I always had my own apartment, always had my own car, always had my own money. And I always found that they wanted to live in my house, eat my food, drive my car. And I just didn't understand that, because it's like, why are we going out? Why are we going out in your car? I dated one guy. He was great. It's hilariously funny. It seemed like he was trying to get his act together. I let him stay with me, and he stole all my stuff. And it's just, I don't know. I just find that with white guys, at least, they won't do that. Now listen, I know that there's some out there. I know that there's some that don't pay their child support, just like black men. But I just find, just on a day-to-day level, a white guy will take you out. He'll want to take you on dates, like actual dates where you leave the house. When he goes to a club with you, he'll buy you drinks. You know, just small things like that. He'll open the car door for you. And I'm not saying that there's not black men that don't do that, but typically all the ones that I have encountered, I always had to ask them to do that or say, why are you opening the door for me? Just small things. So maybe it's a politeness.
When we get those stares and we get those looks in public, we'll just, I mean,
we handle it differently though.
Yeah.
He approaches it one way and I approach it another way. He kind of like just ignores it,
Yeah,
and I want to tap him on the shoulder and be like, can you explain? I just want to know. I want to know if you have a problem with this. I want to know why. I want to know what you think about it, or, you know, even when they're like kind of smiling at us, like some guy at Walmart the other day came up to him and he's like, yeah, man, I feel you. Like, I understand that, or something.
This is 40-year-old white guy.
What are you talking about?
Just came up to me and was like, hey man, you know, y'all are a pretty cool couple or something. He said something like that. Yeah. It was just so random. I was so surprised by it.
We get both. It's funny because, you know, my mom's like, how is that for you? It must be really hard when people, you know, aren't accepting, and it is, but you're gonna have that no matter what. I mean, it's always something. If you're dating a guy who's less attractive than you, whether you're the same race or not, they're gonna be like, why is she with him? She's so much cuter than him,
or one, you know, person in the relationship is bigger than the other, or
yeah, you're always
gonna run into something.
It's just, it's for us, it's different, and I think that, I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not trying to justify it, but I think that we handle it as a united front, and we both know that we're gonna have to handle people that don't accept what we're doing, but we hope that we can contribute to a progressive change.
I don't think that my friendships with my black female friends and their attitudes towards white men has put a strain on my relationship, but what it makes me do is not bring Jerry around so much to different things. At least it did in the beginning. Now I don't care. But I just remember, in the beginning, like I would say to myself for certain events, like maybe I shouldn't bring this guy because he's white. I'm going to a predominantly black party. That would cross my mind.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
No wonder. Okay.
But then I was like, you know what? Who cares?
At work in corporate America, it's like, yeah, I have a boyfriend, but how much of that information do I want to divulge, and will it affect my career or things like just day-to-day things that you're excited about this person and you want to take them out with you and you want to bring them to company events, and it's scary because it could.
We don't know how people are going to react.
It could negatively affect your life.
I think the things that I admire about Jerry the most are the fact that he's very protective. Like, I always feel very safe with him. He's very kind. He doesn't look very kind, but he's a very, very considerate guy, and he's always thinking of my feelings first. For example, if we're eating something, he'll always, like, the last piece before he eats, he'll always ask me if I want that.
With Crystal, she's independent, she's beautiful, she's smart, you know. I don't have a college degree, and she has a college degree. Here I am, a white male, no college degree, black female, college degree. She's my partner, and we get along really well, and that's what I was looking for in a mate, whether it be black, white, green, and that's who she is.
Although he does try to get me to lose my big butt, but that's genetics.
He is exactly like my father. He possesses all the good qualities that my dad has, that I would want in someone, and so much more. I mean, more in that things that I would want. You know, sometimes we'll try to go somewhere and Jade is always late. Oh my God, he can't be on time to save his life. He'll be late to some funeral. But that's exactly how my dad is. My dad cannot be on time. Like you said, both accountants, both the, you know, protectors, the, you know.
Soft-spoken, just everything. Your
Very,
mom just
she was like, it's so, yeah, and it is. My mom's like, he is a lot like your dad. It's a little scary. I'm like, I know. I really second-guessed myself for a minute, you know. My dad.
Interracial relationships reveal hidden prejudice. After all, these days, many people readily admit to having friends or close associates of a different race, but mention their sons, daughters, brothers, or sisters dating someone of that race, and their views often change. In the next 2 hours, we're going to take you across the country, exploring the views and opinions of couples, individuals, and focus groups of American citizens to show you interracial dating in America uncovered.
I kind of feel that here in the South it's a little bit shocking in a way because we don't really see it as much as other people do in other cities or states. So
no, that's true. We really never see it. And like I said, in the last 2 months, I've seen two. One at a birthday party, one at a farmer's market, and both of them were very different than what I see on TV. When you see interracial couples in real life, they're not, you know, both of them aren't totally into rap, and they're not wearing, you know, sweatsuits. It was just very different to see.
Really do believe that you should date whoever you want, and I think it's up to those individuals. If somewhere down the line you find out that there's some cultural differences, that's stuff that you have to deal with all your life, but you still have that personal choice, and everybody should be able to make it.
My preference is for black man, black woman, white man, white woman.
In 2000, Alabama held a statewide referendum to remove its ban against interracial marriages. It was the last state in America to hold such a law in its books, 33 years after the Supreme Court rendered those laws powerless by ruling them unconstitutional. The act of striking the law was largely symbolic, a state removing a shameful relic from its history of segregation. The election to remove the law was successful, but amazingly, 40% of the voters, nearly half, voted against removing the ban. Incidents like this one make it clear that interracial relationships are the last racial taboo in America. America. Love is not blind in America when it comes to interracial relationships, and all of the possible combinations, black and white couples continue to be the most eye-catching and the most controversial. At first glance, it would seem that America has made some progress. The rate of interracial marriages has skyrocketed, almost doubling each decade since 1970, according to the U.S. Census data. The increasing portrayal of black and white couples in entertainment and in the media reflects the growing trend. But although some polls show increasing tolerance or even approval, America's legacy of slavery continues to have a lasting effect on how its citizens view black and white couples. Despite our modern times, many people view people of color in a negative light. But perhaps what makes black and white couples so controversial is the perception of their relationships as an unspoken statement that partners of their own race somehow aren't suitable. Still, others look at black and white couples through a lens of preconceived ideas and outdated prejudice. The white man, who has succumbed to the animal sensuality of the black woman. The black woman, who has captured the ultimate gold digger's prize in a white man. The white woman, who quenches her desire for excitement in the ultimate bad boy in a black man. The black man, who has found a more submissive and dutiful companion in a white woman.
It depends on this. It depends on the kids. I mean, well, the people involved. I think it. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. I think, as in most dating situations, it depends on the individuals that are in the dating relationship.
Most people look at it like it's a taboo thing, but if two people are in love with each other, I don't see nothing wrong with it. If they're taking care of each other and whether it be each other's soulmate, there should be no problem.
I don't have any problems with it. I see it more and more, and I think it's more and more accepted.
My personal opinion is that there's nothing wrong with it. That if two people are compatible and they find the person that they're meant to be with, that they should go for it.
The only problem I have with interracial dating is when they're closed mind about dating. If it's a person that says, I only date white women, I only date, those are closed-minded people. I don't like those type of people. But if they find people that they fall in love with not because of their skin color, have no problem with that. Because love has no color.
You know what, it's funny that you would have that's even something that would be questioned today, because interracial dating, I mean, people are people. And the fact that colors even are
an issue in 2006, it's
it
ridiculous.
Blows our mind.
I think this is a live and let live type of country, and I have absolutely no problem whatsoever.
I found out that I